If you are someone dealing with an avoidant partner or an avoidant discard, then I'm sure you've heard at least one person say that your anxious behaviors are simply too much. And when you hear a message like this over and over, it does make you feel like you're going a little crazy because your avoidant didn't show up to the relationship acting avoidant. They acted like they were just as in it as you were. And when you told them something that was important to you, they acted supportive. But nevertheless, all of these people tell you that every time you text your avoidant, well, you're just too impatient. My goodness, you're practically out of control. But wait, that's got to be some kind of a trick, because whose behavior is more out of control here? The person like you who has become anxious simply because you want a face-to-face talk about why someone who claimed to love you suddenly breaks up with you, or the person who goes around tricking other people thinking that, yeah, they'd also like a future with them right before they throw a live grenade into that unsuspecting person's world, and then suddenly becoming too busy to even bother to find out whether or not the person they claimed to love survived the deafening blow. Well, you can survive it, but you're going to have to work on quieting down that incessant, toxic lingo that tries to convince you your anxious behavior is too much for this world. Avoidant discards are traumatizing, and their villainous behavior isn't a matter of someone just getting comfortable enough to be themselves around you. No, it's an all-and-out bait and switch, and yeah, there's a difference. But sometimes when you first start dating someone, those red flags can be so incredibly subtle, you miss them completely, and it's not until after the breakup and you've had some time to heal that you look back and you're like, yeah, I guess there were some red flags along the way. And of course, that still reinforces all of the blame onto you, but don't be so hard on yourself. You can learn how to trust yourself again, and it all begins with one small but powerful phrase. So grab that bottle of nail polish or whatever self-care method you choose, because we're going to talk about it right now. While we're on the subject of people who miss massive red flags, allow me to start with myself. I once met an avoidant man for dinner, and at the time I had never heard about avoidance. And this was probably our third or fourth date, but when I got there, I had been running late. And I made a little joke. I was just joshing around, and I was like, what would you do if I just never showed up? And I was completely joking, like a hypothetical, funny situation. And this man looked right back at me, pan-faced, and after a moment he said, I would have been fine. And I giggled because I thought that response was absurd, and I thought for sure he must have been joking. No, he meant every single word. And I just didn't see it, because on the first few dates, he went out of his way to tell me over and over again how enthralled and enamored he was with me. I didn't realize at the time he was love bombing me. I figured he couldn't possibly mean it. No, he was telling me the truth. He'd be fine in life without me, because especially dismissive avoidants train themselves to believe that no matter who they lose or how much they lose, they can just numb themselves and they'll be fine. Well, essentially, they're tricking themselves, because a lot of avoidants out of fear will manufacture all these flaws that you have, and they'll come up with all kinds of reasons why the relationship will never work out. And then they trick you into thinking you're the reason the relationship ended. You're too much. Yeah, I'm sure that's why they end up orbiting or coming back years later when everyone else in their life is tired of their nonsense and has abandoned them. Human beings crave connection. They are the ones fooling themselves, just like that dismissive avoidant man I just told you about who said that he would be fine. Yeah, is that why a couple of years after he discarded me, he started orbiting and breadcrumbing and flirting all over my social media around Valentine's Day? But you're the one with the problems, right? It's no wonder we feel like we can't trust people anymore. How do you trust again after you've been tricked and gaslit and discarded by an avoidant? Well, it helps to surrender to two main ideas. The first is completely surrendering to the idea that you can never have control over anyone except yourself. And the second is knowing that life equals risk, and you will never be able to get away from that. Every decision you make at the beginning of any relationship will be made upon incomplete data and an incomplete picture of who this person fully is. Remember, we never really know anybody. Even if you're with someone for years, it takes years to even get to know them. And I know that can be a daunting thought, but unless you're willing to give up and never leave your house ever again, I recommend that you first admit that perhaps you haven't always known the best way to go about relationships. Maybe you've moved too fast, or you've moved in with someone too fast, and you've never been super great at practicing boundaries. And maybe you were never taught healthy boundaries. And again, that's not your fault. That was never your responsibility. But I can almost guarantee that you're taking on far too much responsibility in being kind and empathetic towards an avoidant ex that's treating you like dirt. Another grown adult's trauma is not your responsibility to fix. So let's work on ways that you can take on the responsibility of helping yourself to healthier relationships. Now, what I would first recommend is try not to focus so much on an exact outcome with a specific person, and instead start to form an idea of where you want your relationships to go. People can hide who they are for at least a few months, so it's important that you do become comfortable with a degree of uncertainty, and you find comfort in trusting that you will do what's best for you. And you do that by taking the time to sit down and you ask yourself, what is it that I want? And you write it down on a piece of paper. Let's say that you write down that you want a serious, long-term relationship. Well, now you go out and you meet people and you observe, hey, this guy that I've started talking to, he knows that I'm looking for a serious relationship, and he keeps telling me that I'm fantastic, but he hasn't introduced me to his friends or his family. And we've been dating now for almost 3 months. This relationship doesn't seem to be moving forward despite the words that are coming out of his mouth. Situations like this are why it's important to get really clear on what you want. So when the time comes that their true intentions are revealed, mainly by their actions, and you can feel that it's not going to resonate with you, they're just kicking tires, and this isn't what you want for your future, it's okay, because you know that you can't control or change anyone else. And now you've built enough trust with yourself to have the courage to change your direction. But how do you build trust with yourself? You start with a very small phrase, no thank you. And you use this small phrase to say no thank you to very small things. And then you start to work your way up. Let me give you another example. I once went on a handful of dates with a guy, and he told me that he was an introvert. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's not something he tried to hide from me. He told me right up front. But I could tell after the first couple of dates we went on that he was like really not into crowds, and he was probably only coming out with me because he was pursuing dating me. So he was saying yes to things that I wanted to do, but he didn't necessarily want to do them. And I got this gut feeling that if it was up to him, he'd probably be perfectly happy staying in every weekend all the time. And hey, to each their own. Lots of men and women like to stay in, but I like to go out. And it would become frustrating when by like the third or fourth date, even after I'd already gotten all dressed up and made up to go out to a concert or something that night, he would be like, hey, I've had a really long day, or I don't feel like dealing with people. Can we please just stay in tonight? And here's the thing. Because it was the very beginning when all of those chemicals are flowing and you are trying to pursue a relationship, I'll bet if I had pushed and prodded him, I probably could have gotten him to continue to come out with me until the day that he finally got really comfortable totally being himself in our relationship, and it would become impossible for me to get him to go out. And I don't want to have to get anybody to go out with me ever again. Everyone puts on their best behavior in the beginning, but people don't really change. If I'd stayed in that relationship just because I wanted a boyfriend and I was too focused on that specific outcome with this specific person instead of holding on to what I wanted in the bigger picture, it would have developed into an extremely frustrating and unfulfilling relationship in the long run. I'd become resentful that he never wanted to go out with me, and he would start to think that I was an annoying nag. But because I knew what I wanted, I had written it down, and because I didn't rush into a physical relationship, which often confuses things, I was able to politely bow out and say, no, thank you, and then move forward. And it was nothing against him personally. And you're going to find that a lot of times it's not going to be anything against people personally. But one of the things we've got to stop doing is fitting ourselves into these relationships that don't really suit us. You can find other people that enjoy the same things that you do, people who actually want to do those things with you. That's the important part. And because you probably had a pretty rough experience dating in the past, I'd like to calm your nerves by letting you know that not every parting of ways has to involve some huge, dramatic, tear-stained discard. When you get to know yourself really well, and you don't give so much of yourself so soon in relationships, you'll find that it's easier to just say, no thank you, this isn't for me, before you're in too deep with someone that you had no business trying to fit into a relationship with in the first place. Filter out the villains and be your own hero by standing up for the small things. If you're seeing someone and they want to take you out with their friends, hey, that's great. Say yes. But if they spend the evening peppering you with their backhanded compliments that are only jokes, and in your gut they make you feel embarrassed and emasculated, yeah, no thank you. Or if you're texting someone that you're interested in and they're texting you back the same day, that's a yes. But if you start to notice that you're the only one who ever initiates reaching out, no thank you. Do you see how this is one step at a time? Like maybe you begin to date a gentleman who is all about the compliments. And of course, that feels great. That's always a yes for me. But then you begin to notice that now he's only meeting up with you whenever it's convenient for him, and he's trying to get in your pants. So even though he's been emotionally ignoring you, now he's telling you how good you look. No, thank you. And welcome to the other half, where we know attraction is not just about looks. We also need to take care of the inner half. Because we must say no thank you to behaviors that you know are going to be too triggering when it comes to successfully keeping your center in the long run. And try not to let the word long run make you anxious. Think about it like this. If you're texting someone and they're taking 4 days to text you back, and it's triggering you and riddling you with anxiety right now, it's only going to be worse in the long run. Just like that guy who's that big introvert. That's who he is. And people only become more of who they are as they get older. And I believe you should be who you are. I think it's awful that there are so many videos out there trying to tell you that you're too needy just because you loved someone. I don't think you should change a thing, but I definitely think that you could reinforce some boundaries and start saying no thank you. You can politely decline to go any farther. And even though that sometimes it really sucks and you really wanted the relationship to work out, you can summon the courage to pull the plug on a relationship that deep down you know is not going to be good for you. And it is going to be the most empowering feeling, because not only are you saying, I can trust myself to do what's best for me, you're also going to know that you have done something really hard, something that maybe you were never able to do before. Maybe you've always been the loser in relationships and you're never the one who actually ever got to dump someone else. And once you do this, it teaches your nervous system that you're going to be okay. And then you're going to look back and you're going to start to feel really proud of yourself that you did it. Sucks today, but long-term, sustainable happiness and self-respect tomorrow. When you become someone who can do what's best for you while not disrespecting and crapping all over other people, like some people we know, that's how you know that you're healing. People who love and care are more valuable in relationships, and don't let anyone ever try to trick you into thinking otherwise. Today I'm going to challenge you to make your own self-development the goal and let go of hyper-focusing on specific outcomes that you believe you can only achieve with specific people. It's not true. You will never have total control over your future. So just focus on the direction that you would like to go. Start with small steps. Start with small, powerful phrases like, no thank you. Build that trust with yourself. Keep a list of boundaries on you as a guide, so when the day comes that you meet someone very charming, but you're beginning to become very confused, you can always refer back to that list of boundaries. Don't panic. Pivot. This color is from the Sally Hansen Friends collection, and if you want to know how to respond to an avoidant ex who still wants to be friends, go ahead and click on this link, and I'll be there for you. My name is Maria Adriana. You did not have to live my life, but I certainly hope you can learn something from it. As always, thank you for visiting The Other Half.